to understand, the word bottles here are those wineskin bags. You know, we reuse our bottles. Remember back in the day, we used to wash bottles. They would recycle the bottle. You'd take your sodas in and you'd get 3 cents for a bottle, a nickel if it was the big bottle. We recycled when the milkman came. We'd take those old half-gallon glass bottles, put them outside. He'd take the old ones, they'd wash them, sterilize them, and refill them. So, of course, we're not talking about those kind of bottles. We're talking here about the wine skins. And, of course, if you let a skin get old, of course, what happens in the process of fermentation? Air develops in there and everything expands. And so if you put that in there and you begin to ferment the wine and it begins to expand and the gases begin to build up in the process of fermentation, those skins would pop. And so that's what he's referring to here. The old and mixing of the new doesn't always go well. That's how come you and I wants us to understand. You and I, when it came to these things, he didn't say, let me fix you. It was like leprosy. Let me cleanse you. He had to completely remove our sins because it's not good enough for us to be cleaned up. You know, moral people will often, you know, they do it at the beginning of the year. Every New Year's Eve, people make those resolutions. And most of the people by the second week of January have failed or broken or forgotten their resolution. For the most part, that's what religion is today. Everybody comes down and says, I'm going to live a better life. And then 2 weeks later, they're back to the same old stuff. Why? Because there's a difference in being born again. It's like I said, when I discovered Jesus Christ, salvation became mine, it changed me. I was the recipient of, as I said this morning, faith, hope, and love. These things remain, and they change you, fundamentally change you. I'm not better, I'm new. That's why we are told you must be born again. I just didn't continue. In fact, Jesus said, I didn't just come to give you life, I came to give you new life, abundant life, right? And so in all of these things, these questions, hey, how come your people don't fast like our people do? You can't fast. Now, you and I fast quite often. But if Jesus, when I get to heaven, I'll guarantee I need fasting nothing. When I sit down for that 7-year-long supper, I'm eating for 7 years. My heavenly belly will just keep on going. I don't know what there's at the banquet, but I tell you, I'm already smacking my lips thinking about it. Because God knows how to feast. And we're told that we are invited for a dinner. And we're up there eating while the world is going through the tribulation period, right? And then there's the award banquet that goes on where we are given up. And I tell you, for those 7 years, I hope he lets Colonel Sanders in up there. I hope he does. I'm looking forward to it, right? I hope he's got the colonel in the kitchen right now. I mean, I'm expecting some good things when I get to heaven. But right now, while Jesus has gone away from me, we pray and we fast. And I wanted you to notice how he starts with this idea of prayer and fasting. Because you'll always find out before Jesus has a busy day, he always does something. He always stops to pray. And of course, the disciples are going to be with him. And so he is going to begin to do something very, very difficult. The very first thing he's going to have to do after this lesson to us on prayer and fasting, how can he best teach his disciples that prayer and fasting works? You have to do this something difficult. What's harder than raising a dead person? That's pretty tough stuff. You do it lately? I don't think so. You know, no. But here we have, okay, what do you got to do? If you want God's attention, prayer and fasting. We've seen him talk about it even when he was on the Sermon on the Mount. He talked to them about prayer and fasting. Prayer and fasting. Prayer and fasting. They've seen him do some miracles already, but this is a big one. This is a big one. So if you're in Mark's Gospel and you're following along there in Mark's Gospel, chapter 9, and while he spake. Now, when I read this, you'll notice again that it's a little bit different than what you have, because I've taken Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, I've taken any place in the New Testament that has bearing on this, and I've taken those words and inserted those words as well. So you'll probably see a lot of words as you're going through, and you'll say, wait, that's not in mine. Yeah, but it's in Mark and Luke. And I cheated and shoved them in here, okay? So let me read this to you. This is how I think it went down in my chronology. He's just taught us on fasting and prayer. And the disciples of John had asked him that, so now he moved down. And while he spoke these things, what things? While he's speaking about prayer and fasting, while he spoke these things unto them, behold, there came a certain man named Jairus. While he's saying you need to pray, you need to fast, because you've got to understand how God works. Yes, we can't do it right now because I'm here. But there will come a time when you will be needing that. And as he's speaking, here comes a man named Jairus. He was one of the rulers of the synagogue. This is an important Jew in that town. And when he saw him, Jairus sees Jesus, he fell down at his feet and worshipped him and besought him. He besought him, not just besought, but if you look at the word, they besought him greatly, that he would come into his house, saying, my little daughter even now lieth at the point of death. But come and lay thy hands on her, that she may be healed, and she shall live. That's a lot of faith. That's a lot of faith. If you come, and if you lay your hands on my daughter, she shall, not she might, not why don't you come over my house and let me hope about it? No. If you touch my daughter, she will be healed. Now, we've seen him do some healing. Remember when he was at home and everybody crowded the street when they heard he come back? And at sunset, it's only been a couple of days ago, everybody flooded into his house. This man, as Jesus is returning now, stops him and says, you need to come to my house. My little girl is at the point of death. Someone's going to come and say, well, she's actually even now lieth at the point of death. But come and lay your hands on her, and she shall be healed. She shall live. For he had one only daughter. Jesus has a connection here, doesn't he? He is the only son. Here is the only daughter. I think the Father in heaven probably said, son, I think I feel for this man too. I mean, my son someday is going to lay at the point of death, and I'm going to want to do everything I can to stop him. And he's going to have to say, Father, forgive them, they know not what they do. So if that father can feel the pain, and if any two can feel the same thing, see, this man got God to feel it. If any two can be agreed as touching anything on it, they can have it. This man got Jesus to feel. This man got the Father to feel. I wonder how many disciples almost felt it right along with this. She's about 12 years of age, and she lies a-dying. Wow, that's got to be one of the saddest verses you'll read. She is 12 years of age, and she lies a-dying. That'll break your heart. So Jesus arose, and he went with him. And so did his disciples, because their hearts are broken too. This dad is, you can imagine, this dad has got to be crying as he's saying these words to Jesus. And so they go. Now, I wanted you to underline or circle that 12 years earlier. Because watch what's about to happen. As they went, many people followed him and thronged him. And behold, a certain woman, which had an issue of blood 12 years. What's the chance that a 12-year-old girl is dying at the same time a woman who has been sick for 12 years is about to come in contact with you? She got this disease the moment that daughter was born. And she has had this disease as long as that man's had that daughter. Both of them now are coming in contact with Jesus. I wonder if she overheard, and then number 12, when that man said, my daughter's only 12. You've got to do something. And she's thinking, 12? I've been diseased for 12 years. If the number 12 affects him, hey, here am I. I mean, I'm going to go for anything that I can, right? And so they thronged him. A certain woman which had an issue of blood had suffered many things of many physicians. She had spent all her living upon physicians. Boy, let me tell you, don't we know that? When you get sick and it's going to cost you all you got with the doctor in the hospital, they're going to let you out until you ain't got nothing left. All right? If you've got crowns in your teeth, they're going to take those too. Neither could she be healed of any, and was nothing better, but rather grew worse. When she had heard of Jesus, that he came in the press behind, and she touched the border of his garment. For she said within herself, sounds a lot like this dad, if I may but touch his garment, I shall be whole. What did Dad say? If you touch her, she will. Here is a dad with faith. Here's a woman who's been sick. Now you figured she'd be discouraged. She once probably had a very nice house. She was probably once a prominent person in the city. All of a sudden, here she is probably living on the street, and all she has to her name is her disease. And she hears Jesus coming by. She is mad at every doctor and every faith healer she's ever met, but he's not promising her anything. She's overhearing him. Jesus didn't direct anything to her yet. And she says, if I could touch his garment. How did she know? Because so far Jesus has been putting his hands on people. But this woman somehow surmised, if I could just touch his coat, I could be healed. She felt something. She knew something. She had some faith or some very great hope in this man Jesus. And I tell you, you can't put too much hope in him. You can't have too much faith in God. You can only have the right amount. And so here she is. She's following. The daughter's dying. He's trying to get to that daughter. What's she going to do? I'm going to slow him down just a little bit. Not much. I'm just going to reach out and touch his clothes. And then he can keep right on going. He doesn't even have to know I'm there. I'll get my healing without him even knowing it. He's that good. Might work that way. If I can but touch his garment, I will be whole. And straightway the fountain of her blood was dried up, and her issue stanched, and she felt in her body that she was healed of that plague. She touched his garment when he passed by, and suddenly she could feel in her body immediately that the healing was taking place. Oh, so far she's got everything she wants. And Jesus immediately, knowing in himself that virtue had gone out of him, turned about in the press and said, who touched my clothes? What does he care? He's got a 12-year-old girl dying. Dad's trying to rush him down the street and up the stairs to heal his daughter, who could die at any minute. And he stops and says, somebody touched me. Now the great thing is you're about to see is that there's a crowd of people all around him, and they said, what do you mean somebody touched you? Of course, the whole crowd is banging into you. What do you mean somebody touched me? Jesus knew immediately that virtue had gone out, that somebody had touched him. So who touched my clothes? I remember when I was a little kid. I told you my cousins, they were older cousins, girl cousins. And so, of course, they had these older boyfriends. They were, I'm like, second, third grade. And these guys are in high school, so they're like grown. So they drive cars and everything. And I remember one of them, I think it was Donna's boyfriend, or maybe it was Sandy's boyfriend, Ray. Wasn't her husband just yet. But they dressed, I mean, they were killer dressers. I mean, boy, I tell you, they dressed to the nines, right? And I'm sitting there one Christmas night, and Christmas Eve, and we're sitting over at my auntie's house, and she would always give us something for Christmas. And we're over there, and I remember this guy had this neat suit on. I went over and touched it. He says, hey, dude, don't touch the threads. There's Jesus saying to this woman, hey, don't touch the threads. Who touched me? He wants to know. Okay. And when all denied it, of course everybody, I denied it. You know, because he probably, remember sometimes he can look angry. Remember when he said to that woman, I ain't giving nothing to the dogs. And so when he turns around and said, who touched me? Oh, not me. Because if this man could give life, he could probably take it. If he could heal a leper, he could probably give you leprosy. So you don't want, so right away everybody's saying, wasn't me. And so then the disciples, they began, and Peter, and they that were with him said unto him, Master, you see the multitude thronging you and pressing thee, and thou sayest, who touched me? And Jesus said, someone hath deliberately touched me. Wasn't an accidental touch. This word used here for touch me is somebody deliberately touched me. Somebody with a purpose in mind touched me. Uh-oh. I wonder how many people with a purpose touched him. A lot of people accidentally bump him in. For I perceive that virtue is gone out of me. I know this much. Somebody touched me and they got healed. I know. I can feel the healing power leave my body. Okay, now how many people in the crowd purposely touched him and got healed? Now, if he knew that, does he know that I'm the one who touched him? So am I going to, because what if he decides if I'm a liar, he might take it back. Right? So this woman is kind of caught. And you know, because he's Jesus, that he's probably, while he's saying all these things, he's probably looking right at her. And saying, hey, who touched me with such a purpose? I know somebody got a healing here. And then the woman, so that she wasn't hid, because he's looking at her, you can just imagine. She came fearing and trembling. Why? He's going to give, maybe he's going to take it back. Oh no, he was saving it for that 12-year-old girl and I stole the healing. And now he doesn't have any more healing left. He's going to take this one back from me. She came trembling and fearing, knowing what was done in her. And she fell down before him and told him all the truth before all the people. She confessed, I did it. I was a woman diseased, and now I'm healed. I had been diseased for 12 years. I was saving them for that 12-year-old girl, and I used it. I'm like, oh, what are we going to do? No, he didn't say that. To wit, for what cause she had touched him, and how she was healed immediately. This has to give that daddy who's heard that his daughter's on the verge of death some encouragement, and particularly because some bad news about to come his way. And so just before the bad news, he gets this good news from an unexpected source. A woman touched Jesus. She got healed. She had been sick 12 years. That 12 years has got to mean something to that dad. Do you think all this was accidental? Or does it sound like maybe God had arranged this day long before creation ever was done? And when he saw her, he said unto her, daughter, I wonder why he used that term. Maybe because that dad with the daughter who's at the verge of death needed to hear. See how many words? He's hearing the number 12. He's hearing the word daughter. He's hearing immediate healing. Be of good comfort. Thy faith. What did that dad say? I know if you touch my daughter, she will be healed. Lady, you got it because you got faith. At least for a few more steps. I've got faith. Thy faith has made thee whole. Go in peace, and the whole of thy plague. And the woman was made whole from that hour. Now, while he yet spake, you see the continuation? While he yet spake, there came one from the ruler of the synagogue's house, saying unto him, thy daughter is dead. Wow. All of a sudden, that celebration stopped. And you can imagine how quiet that street must have got. But you see how kind God is? How this man had faith, and he's about to lose it, so God had to give him something to keep his faith alive. He had to give him, if you don't have faith, sometimes you need to have a hope. And when you lose your hope, you've got to get another one. And so Jesus here is finding a way to give this man, when his faith was challenged, find a way to give him some hope. To get him through, to take another step. Jesus knew what was going to happen when he got to that man's house. But what if the man quit? Jesus wasn't going to quit. He was going to do what that man asked him to do. But what if the man quit? What if the man gave up? What if he said, I'm not going there? He just got the word. Thy daughter is dead. Trouble not the master. Listen, we know he's a great healer. But this is beyond healing now. Your daughter is dead. Why troublest thou him any further? But as soon as Jesus heard the word, look at his compassion now. As soon as Jesus heard the word that was spoken, he answered the ruler of the synagogue. He says to the guy in the synagogue, he says unto him, fear not, only believe. What did that man just witness? We saw a woman who was filled with fear and trembling when she was discovered. And again, here's another thing. 12 is mentioned. Faith as the key is mentioned. Fear is mentioned. Fear not. Listen, that woman didn't have to have fear and trembling. I wasn't going to take it back. He's encouraging. When Jesus hears somebody come to that man and say, your daughter is dead, Jesus didn't let him quit, didn't let him give up. He came alongside that man and said, just hold on. You asked me to do something. Let's go get it done. But she's dead. Hey, you don't think, do you not suppose that Jesus didn't know she'd be dead before he got there? Remember when he deliberately, when they come and say to him, Lazarus, which hasn't happened yet, but will in our chronology. When they say, Lazarus, your friend is sick, come and heal him. We find that he deliberately stayed home a few more days. And then, when the word comes, Lazarus is dead, he says to the disciples, let's go and take care of him now. Wait, time for taking care of him was a couple of years ago, days ago, when he was just sick. But now Lazarus is dead. Did they forget this day already? Of course, it's going to be about 2 years later. And with all they're going to see, maybe they don't remember Jairus' daughter. It's a good thing Matthew wrote it down. Because them poor guys got bad memories. And while he yet spake, there come one from the ruler of the synagogue's house, saying unto him, thy daughter is dead, trouble not the master. Why troublest thou him any further? But as soon as Jesus heard the word that was spoken, he answered unto the ruler of the synagogue, saying unto him, fear not, only believe, and she shall be made whole. And when Jesus came into the house of the ruler of the synagogue, he suffered everybody. He suffered no man to follow him and to go in, except for Peter, James, John, the brother of James. And the father and the mother of the maiden. And he saw the minstrels and the people making a tumult, and all that were weeping. And see, in Jewish culture, when you're a rich man like this, you hire people to cry and to wail and to do it as loud as they can, so the whole town knows that everybody's weeping. So as Jesus is coming, all these people out there are standing at the windows and they're crying real loud. And they're making a huge commotion. Oh, they're falling on the ground and doing all. You ever see how demonstrative when you watch those news clips from the Middle East and you see those ladies and they're making all that huge. That's what they do over there. And it just goes down the road. So somebody knows somebody's having a hard day. Nowadays, we just get on Instagram or somebody, tell the whole world that we're having a bad day. And how lousy our dad is and all those sort of good things. Alright, so he comes in, everybody's making a noise. And Jesus, when he comes in, he says unto them, why make ye all this ado, and weep? Give place. Weep not, for the damsel is not dead, but she sleeps. And they laughed him to scorn, knowing that she was dead. But when he had put the people forth, he take the father and the mother of the damsel, and them that were with him, and entered therein where the damsel was lying. And he took the damsel by the hand, and he called unto her, saying, Tabitha cumi, which is, being interpreted, Maid, I say unto thee, arise. And her spirit came again, and straightway the damsel arose and walked. And her parents were astonished with a great astonishment. And he charged them straitly that they should tell no man what was done. And no man should know it. Yeah, how long do you think that was kept a big secret? As soon as that girl goes outside, everybody's... But how often does Jesus do that? He does it. And then, remember, he told the guy, hey, don't tell anybody. And what did that guy... He went and told the whole world. And he commanded that something should be given her to eat. That was to prove to them that she wasn't a ghost. She was like, because dead people don't eat. Zombies don't eat unless they eat your brains. But in this case, give her something to eat so that the family would know that she was just a ghost, that she really truly was alive. That's why when he comes back into the house after he appears through on the following Sunday, he says, give me something to eat. You got some fish, you got some bread, you got some honeycomb. And he takes and he eats it to prove to them that he wasn't a ghost. So they go into there, and it was done. And he commanded that something should be given her to eat, and the fame thereof, told everybody not to tell. And the fame thereof went abroad into all the land. And then he went out from there. Look at his fame is spreading before he even leaves the house. Everybody already knows what he's done. All right, let's drop down now, and you're going to come to the healing of two blind men. And when Jesus departed, this is very short. And when Jesus departed thence, two blind men followed him. Hey, if you just heard that he raised a dead child and you had a malady, would you follow him? Sure. And so when he left the house, two blind men followed him, crying and saying, Thou son of David, have mercy on us. And when he had come into the house, and the blind men came to him, Jesus said unto them, Believe you that I am able to do this? And they said, Yes, we believe that you are. And then touched he their eyes, saying, According to your faith. Why do you have to pray and fast? Sometimes that's our aid to our faith. According to your faith, be it unto you. And their eyes were opened. And Jesus straightly charged them again, saying, See that nobody knows about this. Yeah, right. But they, when they had departed, blabbed their big mouths all around the country. See, that's what it says in the Greek. I'm just sharing you with the Greek literal translation. And then finally, I know this was a busy day of healing. Busy. Of course, if something big happens, don't you all want to be involved on it? And he's going to heal a mute at this particular point. And then this is going to finish off this is the last thing he's going to do in the year of popularity. Next week will be in his year of opposition, but he'll be in the healing. And when they went out, behold, look at the blind man just left his house. And when they left his house, behold, they brought in a dumb man. As soon as there was room in the house, two guys go out, they bring in another guy. This all probably happened in his own living room. And they brought in a dumb man that was possessed with the devil. And when the devil was cast out, the dumb man spoke. And the multitude marveled, saying, It was never so seen in Israel.